Okay, that was interesting. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. What's over here? Welcome back to another live stream. I tried to do one literally a few minutes ago, but my internet acted up for whatever reason. Like, it literally wasn't working. But I got it fixed now, so that's all that we need to say about it. So we're gonna continue with what we're doing. I'm gonna have to restart on that one video, so yeah. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna go all the way back. Like what I like to do is go from back to the beginning, from the last video on my recommended to the first, because I like doing that. So we're gonna do this. All right. Let's see what we got here. Oh, 20 streamers caught cheating, huh? No, I'm not gonna watch that one. I've probably watched it enough times. Alright. I like watching. Sometimes I like to watch those videos where, um, what's this? Oh, it's some Mario 64 speedrunners. This video is for educational purposes only. It's not a call out to seek and harass any individuals featured within. I'm plugging this Twitch because, obviously.
We've already covered a story about a recent cheater in the Super Mario 64 community. While entertaining, it was certainly not the first incident of its kind, nor was it ever the most significant. Today we're going to go back to the beginning of Mario 64 speedrunning, where we will take a look at some of the biggest cheaters the game has ever seen. Every single one of these cheaters has claimed to have a world record time in some category of SM64. The effect that these runs have had on the game as a whole cannot be overstated. And yet, as time has gone on, many, if not most people, have become wholly unaware of them. Remembering their stories is not only interesting, but necessary if our competition is wished to be kept alive. Nearly all of the information covered here has been researched and documented in write-ups made by SM64 historian Frosty Zako. Links to all of his amazing work can be found in the description.
Interesting. Okay.
Our story begins back in 2005. Speed Demos Archive was the biggest website for both speedrunning discussion and competition at this.
Yeah, I remember them. I remember website. Yep, I do remember Speed Demos Archive back in the day. I remember watching those videos of speedruns, and I even remember there would be these videos where they would start out with this one intro. It's like do 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 do. I don't know where it's from, but I remember some of those videos would have that playing on them as well. Yeah, but I do remember Speed Demos Archive. Yeah, for sure.
The site had finally opened up its forums to feature more games, and Super Mario 64 had just enjoyed its first year of the competition on its leaderboards. At this point, the best 16 star time submitted was held by a runner named Kirby Carter with a time of 20 minutes and 46 seconds. A few runners, including Kirby Carter himself, had already completed times faster than this. However, they all refrained from submitting as they had wished to further improve their times first. So for all intents and purposes, the 2046 was considered the de facto world record by the community. The only person to actually contest this time with the video submission was a runner named Marius M., also known as Holy Moly 2207. Retime with modern day timing conventions, his run finished with a time of 20 minutes flat. However, the run was ultimately rejected because of the video's less than stellar audio quality.
Oh my god. My god, that even lowered by 90%, that's still hurting my ear.
A unique situation in which Kirby Carter's 2046 was still listed as the official world record, yet with many considering Holy Moly's 20 flat to be the true world record. After all, the validity of the run itself was never questioned at this time. It was only the quality of the video that hindered its verification. This run would eventually be beaten many times over the years, but the record came back into attention over a decade later when Holy Moly himself commented on a world record video by Cheese. In his comment, he brags about the fact that
Oh, dude, I actually just seen Nathaniel Bandy comment on that video
beaten
just
many
now.
times over the years, but the record came back into attention over a decade later when Holy Moly himself commented on a cheese. In his
Yeah, I just seen that Nathaniel Bandy commented on that video. Interesting.
He brags about the fact that he once held the 16-star world record for several years. Holy moly. At this point, so many years later, practically no one knew who this person was, let alone any records he may have set. So upon seeing this, a moderator from the SM64 leaderboards, Gothic Logic, immediately went to check the validity of the statement. And by using modern-day verification techniques, he was quickly able to determine that this run was spliced. Splicing is the act of recording individual segments of a speedrun and editing them together to create the illusion of one continuous run. It is one of the most common forms of cheating in speedrunning, and with good enough editing can easily remain undetected. This story is just insane for this very reason. If Holy Moly had just said nothing, he probably would have gotten away with this like he had for the past 12 years. But he instead decided to brag on someone else's world record video about a time that he knew was fake. Holy moly. So how did Gothic Logic find out the run was spliced? Well, in most analog video recordings, a noise known as a mains hum can be heard in the background. Under normal conditions, this hum will be constant and uninterrupted throughout the recording. However, in an edited run, this noise will stutter during a splice. When looking at the audio of the run in a spectrogram display, you can see a clear gap in many spots of the waveform.
Yep.
This very method is how a large number of runs were confirmed to be cheated throughout Mario 64's history. For another example of this kind of cheating, enter Miles B, better known as Shadow of Miles. Miles was an extremely skilled and well-respected speedrunner in his time, not only in Super Mario 64, but in many other games as well. He began his speedrunning journey back in 1998 playing Mario Kart 64, where he held numerous shortcut records and pioneered many famous lap skips. In Super Mario 64, he additionally held 70 separate single-star records, all at the same time. However, his achievements in the game reached their apex on May 11, 2008, when he took the 16-star world record with a time of 18 minutes and 30 seconds. This time not only beat the unsubmitted world record by 38 seconds, but also the de facto record set by Holy Moly all the way back in 2005. Up to this point, Holy Moly's run was still not known to be cheated, and was still the fastest time submitted to the SDA leaderboards. And so over 3 years later, this time set by Miles was the first one to finally beat it with video proof. This run went on to be a widely respected milestone in the history of SM64. It was the last 16-star record ever submitted to Speed Demo's archive, and was therefore visible to anyone who visited the page for almost a decade afterwards. Many people were introduced to Mario 64 speedrunning because of this very run, and naturally looked up to it with a great deal of respect. Almost nobody had even considered the idea that such a prestigious run could be anything but completely legitimate. However, in 2014, the very same methods used to catch Holy Moly 3 years later were used here on Miles' run. Once again, it was discovered that there were clear gaps in the audio of the run, confirming that his record was spliced. Out of hundreds of legit records, this run was the only one that Miles had ever cheated. But despite his otherwise clean reputation, it seemed that not even the most prestigious of runners could be completely absolved of cheating. Miles was immediately confronted about these discoveries, and he eventually made his own statements in a forum post discussing the incident. Its contents are strange.
What just happened?
Eventually made his own statements in a forum post discussing the incident. Its contents are strange.
Let's see. The video was spliced. The allegations are true. The evidence speaks for itself. I have never done anything of this evil magnitude before, and I never will again. Just 1 week before KMVs discovered the splices, I had a dream where I took flight over a field. At the end, what? Jesus cow, that's too fast. I had a dream where I took a flight over a field. A creature sent it toward me from the nearby forest. Ah, the antelope of death. It's because I cheated in Mario 64. This... God damn it, bro. This thing's going way too fast for me to read. This will need to be addressed soon. God bless you all. I'm sorry for all my deception. It won't happen again.
Apology. It's difficult to say what Miles' motivation for cheating exactly was. He claims to have been disillusioned by cheating growing out of control in the SM64 scene. However, there is no clear evidence of any other known cheaters from this time. And despite the immensely high regard that Miles was held in, He seems to believe that he had been disrespected by the speedrunning community in some way, and seems spiteful because of it. On the other hand, he also seems to show an extreme amount of guilt over what he had done. Unlike Holy Moly, Miles never went around bragging about his fake world record time. If anything, he seems almost shameful of it. But his plan seems strange even in the first place. This run was not discovered to be cheated until 6 years after it was first posted. If his intent was to eventually confess on his own, then why wouldn't he have done so years earlier? These answers can never be known for sure, as Miles left speedrunning for good immediately following this incident. Any of his records still left standing at this point would also eventually be beaten, including every one of his single-star times. The cheaters were not only limited to the main categories of Super Mario 64, single-star runs were not safe either. It is important to know about the distinctions between the different platforms that Super Mario 64 is run on. Around this time period, runners playing on an emulator were about as common as runners who played on original Nintendo 64 consoles. Emulators are generally much more accessible and much easier to record footage for. Furthermore, the advent of save states and in-game timer cheat codes exclusive to emulators at this time made the platform much better for single-star optimization. Because of these advantages, it was in fact more common for single-star runs to be completed on emulator. But despite these differences, the two platforms were usually not separated on any leaderboards at the time. In 2009, the single-star leaderboards were hosted in Japan on a website called Rakuraku HP. In the West, they were shared on sm64.org, a continuation of a previous website. Competition on these sites was both healthy and honest, but it only took about a year for these leaderboards to see cheaters of their own. In the summer of 2010, a runner going by the name of Fragilicism first appeared in the sm64.org forums and immediately began claiming single-star world records. However, it was quickly realized that these records were being done tool-assisted. A tool-assisted speedrun or task is a run created in an emulator with inputs being entered in frame by frame rather than in real time. They are usually reserved for research or entertainment purposes only, but in cases such as this one, they have been used as a method for cheating. Many of the strategies used in these runs are nearly impossible for a human to do without save states or any consistent setups, and yet they are all done flawlessly with frame-perfect execution. Single-star runs in this vein were also published at the same time on 3 other separate YouTube channels. While it's never been confirmed that these channels were made by the same person, their similarity in concept and close proximity of upload times makes it very likely that they were. These runs were almost immediately concluded to be fake, and they would have remained insignificant if it weren't for 2 events. The first is that these runs were still accepted to the Japanese leaderboards. Despite the general consensus that they were cheated, moderation back then was lax, and it was Rakuraku HP's policy to accept every run that had no definitive evidence of cheating. This policy most certainly led to a number of cheated runs being accepted onto the leaderboards, which devalued the site's reputation as a whole. The second event was one particular video uploaded to the channel Bowser SM64 of 3 claimed Bowser stage records. Similar to the other videos, there is a blatantly obvious display of tool-assisted gameplay, but what separates this video from all the others is the unique inclusion of an in-game timer cheat code. To understand why this is important, we need to take a quick look at the different emulators that SM64 can be played on. There are 2 main versions of emulators for the Nintendo 64, MUPEN 64 and Project 64. MUPEN 64 is the emulator generally used for tool-assisted runs due to its superior functionality for making tasks. Project 64, on the other hand, has no task functionality and is generally used for human-played runs Mario 64 only. It is also the only emulator currently permitted on the official speedrun leaderboards. At this time, distinguishing between these emulators was relatively simple, as it was believed that cheat codes could not be added to MUPEN 64 or any of its tasks. Codes such as in-game timers were thought to only be possible on Project 64. As we will later see, many cheaters from this time were caught because of these distinctions. If somebody was found to be running on MUPEN 64 at this time, there was a high probability of that person having cheated a run. Before this, no one had assumed that it was possible to have any sort of cheat codes in a tool-assisted run. This fact alone is what kept the validity of emulator runs alive for so many years. But this video proved this fact wrong for the first time. It was the perfect combination of blatantly fraudulent gameplay and everything that could prove emulator runs to be legit. Given the circumstances, it's possible that these runs were created and submitted with the goal to expose these supposed shortcomings of the emulator platform, but we may never know for sure. These faked runs had a long-lasting effect on the Super Mario 64 community, but unbeknownst to most runners in the West, Japan was dealing with its own epidemic of cheaters, some of which would go on to affect things much more drastically. Super Mario 64 saw Japanese runners pick up the game for the first time in early 2009. Within a year, the Japanese community quickly grew to numbers much larger than SpeedDemo's archive ever had. Information about the early Japanese scene is scarce at some points and almost non-existent in others. Despite this, there is still clear evidence of cheaters pervading their entire history. First-hand accounts for nearly all of these incidents have been provided by Japanese runner and tasser Midori SM64. As a leading figure of the Japanese community for over a decade, Midori was directly involved with the exposure and rulings on nearly all of these cheaters. In the summer of 2010, almost 30 runs were confirmed to be cheated, 7 of which were claimed world record times, and the majority of which were ran on emulator. Every one of these times was submitted by one of 4 Japanese runners, with all of them streaming on Nico Nico, Japan's equivalent of Twitch. Their method for cheating was all the same: create tool-assisted runs and then try to pass them off as real. The first to be exposed was a popular streamer and tasser known as TOT. TOT had achieved world records in both 0 and 1 star in June and July of that year. Videos of these records can no longer be found on the internet. However, it is known that they were deemed suspicious less than a month after they were first submitted. He was found to be running the game using MuPen64 and was accused of streaming tool-assisted runs while attempting to pass them off as real-time attempts. The evidence seemed conclusive enough, but TOT's influence as a popular streamer at the time made any punishment he received largely minimal. The moderation team was apparently harassed by TOT's followers and lightened their pressure on him because of this intimidation. TOT initially...
Yeah, because people gotta be... Yeah, because fanboys and fangirls gotta be assholes over nothing. They gotta be assholes over shit, and it's like, dude, just let them do their fucking jobs. Quit bitching. If things happen, they happen for a reason. Quit your bitching.
That he had ever even cheated, but as we will later see, he would eventually change and apologize for everything. But according to Midori, the lack of any heavy punishment for TOT set a precedent for the rest of the Japanese community. Suddenly, an entire flood of new cheaters enter the scene, with the belief that none of them would receive any sort of repercussions. The next one to be exposed was a runner named Harukaze, later known as Keidama, and also known under many other names. Harukaze had taken the 16-star world record for the first time on June 22, 2010, with a time of 16 minutes and 42 seconds. In the next 2 months, he additionally improved his PB by more than 30 seconds. Any videos of these runs no longer exist on the internet, but it is known that his fastest times were never listed on the Japanese leaderboards. It appears that these runs were considered suspicious as early as June, but it wasn't until August of that year that he was concluded to be cheating. Harukaze was notably more careless in his acts of cheating compared to others from this time. His main motivation for cheating was to gain popularity as a streamer, and so his only plan was to fool his general audience and not experienced players of the game. His only real concerns with the SM64 community was when it came to attacking them. Just like TOT, Harukaze used his position as a more popular streamer to attack the people accusing him of cheating, but this approach would ultimately backfire on him when it led to his eventual ban from Nico Nico. Dismayed by this ban, he would ultimately admit to cheating and retired from the game for good. Both TOT and Harukaze were dealt with behind closed doors under rather private circumstances. As a result of this, the public perception was that anyone could get away with cheating without much punishment. The moderation team was determined to expose any future cheaters that were discovered, and expose them they did. The next to be caught was a runner named Coin. Coin was similar to TOT in many regards. They were both extremely skilled tassers as members of the 120-star TAS team, and were both popular streamers at the time. He was also a top-level speedrunner, holding the 120-star world record in 2009, and 1 year later was one of the first people to ever complete a 0-star run. But unlike TOT, Coin did not immediately arouse any suspicion. Cheating was so uncommon before this point that no one had expected anyone to ever do it. It wasn't until TOT and Harukaze were exposed that the Japanese moderation team set their sights on Coin. He had been creating both spliced and tool-assisted runs and using them on his own stream and in tournament races. But the moderation team was cognizant of their previous experiences dealing with cheaters privately and the harassment that followed, and so this time they took a much stronger approach against Coin. On September 26th, a live stream was conducted with the intent to expose Coin publicly in front of a large audience. In this live stream, it was proven through multiple means that he was streaming tool-assisted gameplay and pretending that he was the one playing. It was shown that he was running on MuPen64, and multiple points in his stream where the gameplay either paused or restarted made it evident that he was playing back a pre-recorded run. Following this live stream, Coin admitted that he cheated, and subsequently deleted his page on Nico Nico after apologizing for his actions. Unlike the cheaters before him, he was much more honest in his apology, and never used his position as a streamer to incite harassment on the moderation team. For these reasons, Midori looks back on him much more favorably than the other cheaters who were caught. But he unfortunately had to be made an example of in order to set a new precedent for the future.
Yeah, on the one hand, you know, that's the one thing that is still relevant to this day with how people that are considered that have a big following, if they have a big enough following, and if they're complete and utter assholes, they could set their fan base on the people that are accusing them of certain things, and they just, you know, because they don't like getting called out and shit. So they can just send their fan base to some to the person to anybody that's calling them out on their bullshit, and it's still relevant even outside of this website that they're talking about. It's still relevant to this day because some streamers, some streamers still do this for whatever reason, and it's very stupid. Ironically, it's really messed up how that works. The assholes are given a bit of leniency. They're not away with it scot free, but they might as well have been. But then when the guy that admits that he messed up steps forward, they make an example out of him. That is messed up on so many levels. Like if he got in trouble for cheating, obviously he deserves to get punished. But the fact that he was willing to come out and, the fact that he was willing to step step up and admit his mistake, admit his guilt on this sort of thing, yeah, he should have been given a punishment. But the other guys that were being assholes, they deserve they deserved a much more steeper punishment. At that point, you should just say, you know what, if you want to be assholes and you want to sick your fan base on me, well, we're moderators. You guys can keep sending them at us. We'll kick their asses too, along with yours. The best way we know how, man. That's what they should have done. But because they were scared, because, they were scared about certain things, they didn't want to do it to the popular people. But they had no problem doing it no problem doing it with this other person to make an example out of him. In all honesty, if you're the type of streamer that is going to send your fucking fan base to other people, or you're going to threaten and you're going to send your fucking fan base toward other people to harass them, to threaten them, etc., etc., you're a piece of shit. You are an asshole. That's how it is. The toilet that you just heard being used, that's you in that toilet. Okay? Yeah, I heard the toilet in my bathroom being used, and I know who was using it. But still, you know what I'm saying. If you see the toilet being used, that's you in that toilet, because you're a piece of shit. That's toward the people that want to act like that, like they want to act like children over people rightfully calling your asses out. Because if anybody knows something about me, is that I have no problem calling people out. I've called many people out on my channel. And I'm honestly surprised not one person has actually thought of sending their fan base after me just for the sake of me speaking my mind. That I would not be surprised if I ever experience it, but I'm kind of surprised that I have yet to experience it. Moving on.
The summer of 2010 was one of the most chaotic times in Super Mario 64's entire history. The fake single-star runs created by Fragilicism, combined with Japan's multitude of cheaters, made waves throughout the community. After this, the reputation of emulator runs was left extremely damaged. By 2011, emulator runs went from being half of top-level competition to almost none at all. Their validity became increasingly more questionable, and the community was essentially thrown into a state of accusatory paranoia. Nearly every top runner playing on emulator was scrutinized to the point that they all either switched to console or in some cases ended up quitting altogether. Any runners who still remained were left largely demotivated, and in the end, accusations of cheating on emulator were largely baseless and only led to a decrease in honest competition. Additionally, both Raku Raku HP and SM64.org went offline a couple years later without any backup. The majority of these records are now lost as a result, and the community was left without any single-star leaderboard for the better part of a year. To this day, the reputation of emulator runs has not returned to its original status, and console has remained on top as the definitive platform for Super Mario 64 speedrunning.
Yeah.
While these cheaters were some of the...
I can see that. I can see it. Because when you tarnish the reputation of something, it is very hard to go back to that thing without people feeling like, okay, well, you're using this, well, you gotta be cheating, you know. So yeah, so it makes sense for that. But even then, but even then, you gotta be careful with how you present your speed run, because with certain speed runs that could be recorded live, that could be live streamed, you know, some people probably could pass something off to make it look like they were doing it live, but they really aren't. And that has happened in the past, from what I've heard from many different people, based on many different games. But yes, that can happen. And or people just want to, just want to get attention, so they're going to accuse somebody of cheating on their live speedrun when it's very obvious. No, they're not. You know. So yeah, so that makes sense.
Notable at the time, the knowledge of their acts never really left Japan. However, a select few had such a large impact that their stories could not go unnoticed in the West. These are the stories of White Aris and Akikon, Super Mario 64's biggest cheaters.
Oh.
White Aris
okay.
and Akikon both began speedrunning Super Mario 64 in 2010, and within only 2 years, both players had established themselves as proficient runners of the game's short categories. In a matter of months, White Aris had successfully brought his 16-star PB down to a world record level. He would go on to set 5 separate 16-star world records, and kept his spot.
Okay, so right here on the screen, if you're watching along with me, you will see it saying no LBLJ or LBLJ. So LBLJ is short for long backwards, long backwards, long jump. If you don't know what it is, it's basically where, from my knowledge of speedrunning, and I could be wrong here with even coming up with what it stands for. What it is where people, like, where you do the backwards long jump, the BLJ, the backwards long jump, and you excuse me, you have to rapidly press a button to do the backwards long jump up this set of stairs. It is needed to get into inaccessible areas, particularly the long staircase that takes you to the final Bowser stage in the game. That's where it's most prevalent, because there is a glitch in the original Super Mario 64 that's not in the re-release version, or uh, the version that you get in the Super Mario 3D All Stars version, which was only released in Japan. Um, that version will not let you do that trick, but the original Mario 64 will let you do it. So yeah, you guys would have to take a look. You guys probably would have to watch a video of a Mario speedrun to know how it works.
One on the leaderboard uninterrupted for over a year. That is, it would have been if it weren't for 2 of his runs being deemed suspicious. From the very beginning of Aris' speedrunning career, many people doubted that any of his runs were legit. One particular time of 15 minutes and 37 seconds was never added to the leaderboards. This time was the biggest improvement that Aris had made to any 16-star world record. The insanely fast improvement rate made many people doubt that the run was real. Aris' previous runs were also removed as a result of these suspicions, and so he was left with no times on the leaderboards. However, he would eventually return in the second half of 2012, and this time his records would stick. He would go on to set yet another 5 consecutive 16-star records, culminating at the end of the year with a final record of 15 minutes and 31 seconds. By all definitions, this run was insane. It was the fastest run on the leaderboards by a margin of 21 seconds, and with no new strategies to implement, no one could hope to beat it anytime soon. After this run, Aris would not attempt to beat this time again, but his record would remain at the top of the leaderboard for over a year. Akikon had a very different beginning to his speedrunning career. He was never doubted or accused in the way Aris was, as he proved himself with respectable times in all 5 main categories of SM64. By
Okay.
2013, he was a top 10 runner in 4 out of 5 of them. He also held a large number of single-star records, all of which were set on console rather than emulator, which further cemented his legitimacy. But his achievements in the game would peak on September 3rd, 2013, when he beat White Eris's seemingly unbeatable 16-star record with his own time of 15 minutes and 22 seconds. This was once again an insane improvement. Many had thought that Eris's 1531 was practically untouchable, and yet Aki-Kan seemed to have beaten it by 9 seconds. But the insanity of the run itself was nothing compared to what would later happen as a result of its existence. 3 months after the run was first uploaded.
Hey yo, Mr. Coconut, how you doing tonight?
Something strange.
Again, lol. Don't worry about it. Yeah, don't worry about it. We're just having a good time, it's not that matters.
Aki-Kan delisted his world record video and asked that no re-uploads of it be made. With this removal, the world record was then returned back to White Eris's 1531. That is, until another 3 months later, when Eris in turn deleted the video of his own run. The Japanese community immediately saw their actions as a sign that both of their runs were cheated. Years of suspicion around White Eris's runs made his ruling conclusive, but no one could have ever expected this from Aki-Kan. It was the first time he had ever done anything like this. And
it's funny how they're like, yeah, okay, White Eris, he probably cheated. But Aki-Kan? Really? What the hell? You know, that's what it seems like.
Time anyone had ever questioned his credibility. Outside of Japan, the Western SM64 community had already been suspicious of Eris after learning of his rejected 1537 2 years earlier. But any suspicion of Aki-Kan remained in Japan, even after he removed his own world record time. However, that would all change on September 10th, 2014, a day that would change speedrunning forever. On this day, Midori SM64 and another leading figure of the Japanese community, Hirobomb, published their findings on a revolutionary new method for verifying speedruns. They were the ones who discovered the ability to find splices by using the mains hum in the background of analog video recordings. This verification method was the very same one used to expose both Holy Moly and Shadow of Miles in the coming years, but it was used here for the first time on White Eris and Aki-Kan's runs. By using this method, they were able to confirm that both of the self-removed runs, along with many of Eris's other runs, were spliced. Following these discoveries, White Eris and Aki-Kan both began deleting anything that was left of their presence on the internet. This included nearly every speedrun that either of them had ever completed, but their justifications for doing this were very different. Aki-Kan disappeared almost immediately without ever publicly commenting on the incident. However, a private conversation between Punkasian and Zaya shows that he at least admitted his cheating to his close friends in the community. Eris, on the other hand, was not so humble. He claims to have simply not been satisfied with the quality of his gameplay, and said that he removed the videos of his world record times for that reason only. To this day, he has still never officially acknowledged that he ever cheated. He has only ceased to contradict any claims of it as the years have gone on. This incident has endured as one of the most well-known examples of cheating in the history of speedrunning. It was the first time that any case of cheating in Super Mario 64 had ever reached the wider public. World record times in one of the most prestigious speedruns were found to be cheated, and this fact only heightened the attention that it received. As of today, this was the last major cheating incident that Super Mario 64 had ever faced, and it was the largest by far. A number of these runners are still around today, some under new names, and many of them now contributing positively behind the scenes in ways you could never imagine. I was able to reach out to nearly every one of them, however the only one who responded back was TOT. Up to this point, TOT had still never admitted to any wrongdoings, and so it was very surprising to read what he said.
Let's see here, let's read what he's got to say. I know that some of it may sound like an excuse, but there is no... I always love it when people say that. I know that some of it may sound like an excuse. Chances are because it probably is. But... so whenever I say it may sound like an excuse, I always now believe if you say that, then we're about to hear some sort of excuse. No matter how many of them we are about to hear, there's going to be some sort of excuses going on. Anyway, I know that some of them may sound like an excuse, but there's no lie in what I'm about to tell you. I'm going to mute that just in case I get copyright claimed, because of course Nintendo would be an asshole. Let's see here. 10 years ago, a long time ago, I would have been about 14 years old. I used to devote all my free time to a game called Mario 64. I discovered RTA and TAS and became obsessed with them. I even forgot to eat. My knowledge of tasks gave me an advantage in some areas, but even so, I wasn't that good at games. I was a very competitive person that I had a devilish idea. I am not in denial right now. I admit that it was a stupid act, but I lost the opportunity to tell anyone about it. I denied it and ran away in silence. 10 years later, I'm able to think about a lot of things. I could have ignored your message, run away like I did in the past, and be silent. But now I saw this situation as an opportunity. I could finally talk about the fact that I had acted foolishly and had been hiding the truth.
View is very different from what Midori had to say about him. He does not believe that his own cheating inspired anyone after him to do the same, and that they only shared a similar mindset, if anything. Furthermore, he does not have any recollection of inciting his viewers to harass anyone, but he admits that he may have just chosen to forget about it. Either way, TOT's transparency and honesty in this matter is something that should not be overlooked. While he was the only person to respond to me, I think his messages speak volumes about everyone else we've covered. These were all people who wanted nothing more than to win, and they were willing to do anything to accomplish that, even if it meant they had to cheat. Of course, this does not justify their actions in any way, but it also does not make them terrible people. Being able to make that distinction is very important. I once again want to make it extremely clear that under no circumstances should anyone watching this video attempt to seek out or harass any of the individuals shown here. There's a common mentality in the speedrunning community of once a cheater, always a cheater. While it's true that many of these people were repeat offenders, it's clear that most of them were not proud of what they did and have changed considerably in the years since they cheated. Many of these people were not even close to reaching adulthood at the time. So many people seem to forget the fact that White Eris and Akikon were only 15 years old when they cheated, and not even 18 when they were caught. Super Mario 64 has not seen a major cheating incident since then. These people have all moved on with their lives and have grown as human beings. You should all do the same. It's not easy to say what leads any particular cheater to cheat, but no matter the cause, cheating will never be tolerated in our communities. Speedrunning at its core is a test of virtue built on a system of honor and trust. If acts of cheating are left to run rampant, that trust goes away along with any legitimate competition. On their own, these stories are interesting and entertaining case studies of people who've broken the rules. But most importantly, they are each a lesson and a cautionary tale. We must remember our history, or else we are doomed to repeat it.
Yep.
I want to give a massive shout out to Frosty Zako for his absolutely insane research on the history of cheaters and...
Yep, that was an interesting watch, if I do say so myself. Oh no, what's Tony Khan doing today? Oh my god.
Tony Khan is such a clown that I need to use this thumbnail again. He really did it. The CM Punk and Jack Perry footage was shown on AEW Dynamite tonight. And it was...
Oh, that shit.
It was exactly what we expected. CM Punk based...
Oh, that shit. I'm not going to go into detail about what all was going down, but let's put it to you this way. Last year, CM Punk was signed to All Elite Wrestling. Not really elite anymore now, is it? Not very much as elite as it used to be, if you ask me. But what happened was something happened backstage, and one thing led to another, and ultimately CM Punk would be released of his contract with AEW, and then he would re-sign with WWE some months later, with his debut happening in November at the end of Survivor Series. Now that being said, Tony Khan decided for whatever reason to air the footage that was talked about, that the situation involving CM Punk and another wrestler, and there was going to be, like, I guess they were trying to defame CM Punk as a means to respond to him, you know, talking shit about them recently, and so this happened. Let's see what happened.
exactly what happened play by play in his interview with Ariel Helwani. I don't know why Tony Khan thought releasing this footage now was going to make a difference. If anything, this man is just getting cooked on Twitter for it. It's actually so bad. He is such a clown for this. I can't believe Tony Khan thought this was a good idea. You can even hear the fans in attendance chanting CM Punk's name. I really believe this was the final nail in the coffin on AEW's grave. The company has been going downhill for some time now, and the way that AEW and Tony Khan are getting cooked right now, it's looking like this man embarrassed the entire company, and this accomplished absolutely nothing. It makes AEW look like a joke, and it's honestly kind of sad to see. It backfired so bad that the company's now sending out copyright strikes on Twitter for anyone reposting the video. And the fans aren't happy because it looks like they are backtracking now, taking everyone's video down. They're claiming everyone because they are getting made fun of left and right. The fact that CM...
So let me get this straight. Let's get this straight, okay? They released the video themselves, and now the people are going off on them for doing so in their own way, and anybody showing the video, they are getting claimed on that because of this shit. I really should not be surprised by this, because if you are a wrestling fan, then you would know who Tony Khan is. And this man loves to make a fucking joke out of himself. I feel like nowadays he's just doing this just for the sake of attention. Even if it's bad publicity, he is just doing this shit for the sake of attention. Because not too long ago, there was this thing where WWE booked a match, and they even hyped up this match where Jinder Mahal would face Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship when Seth Rollins was the champion. He has since lost it at WrestleMania this past weekend to Drew McIntyre, who would drop it to Damian Priest shortly after that moment. But anyway, so Tony Khan goes up on the damn Twitter, and he's like, who would want to see Jinder Mahal versus CM Punk? Why don't you guys just go over here to AEW and watch this champion versus champion match between this random guy, this Hook, and Samoa Joe? And in my head, I even read that tweet myself, and I remember posting on that tweet, I said, dude, at least, first off, Jinder Mahal is being given an opportunity that he may or may not have ever again in his WWE career, for the rest of his career in WWE. Now, on your match, you're booking a champion versus champion match. Now, I'm no stranger to champion versus champion matches, but I am pretty certain that if this match ends, the way this match is gonna end, it's gonna end one of two ways. It's either gonna end in a finish where the major champion is gonna beat your secondary champion, which ultimately did happen, or you're gonna book a finish, whether it be double count out or disqualification finish, or something that the crowd is not gonna like. That's why I hate champion versus champion matches, because I know how it's going to end. It's usually going to end with the major champion being given a victory, or it's going to end by way of countout or disqualification in some way, shape, or form. And to certain depending on the matches in question, it's either going to be an interesting match or it's going to absolutely suck. Or if you're taking a page out of the playbook of Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy, when Jeff Hardy was the Intercontinental Champion and Randy Orton was the WWE Champion during the build-up to their match at Royal Rumble 2008 for Orton's WWE Championship, not for Jeff Hardy's Intercontinental title, but this match even had the Intercontinental title on the line in this champion versus champion match, and what happened was Orton would just instantly do a low blow on Jeff Hardy and make the match end immediately in a no disqualification, but they would have this post-match brawl that ended with Jeff Hardy being like so high up up on this thing, and he would do a swanton bomb to Randy Orton. Just literally, yeah. You guys would have to see it to believe it. It was actually the very last time that it would be the very last time that that stage setup that they used at the time was going to be used, and because they were going to change it up to something else for the HD or WWE HD. Hello, Damien. How you doing tonight? But yeah, let's see what else is got to say.
Fired over this, honestly, is actually crazy. Tony Khan saying that he feared for his life makes it even worse. You can even see Tony Schiavone looking embarrassed before and after they show the clip. This man saw the death of WCW, and I think he just witnessed the death of AEW tonight after this nonsense. It's so bad that even Forbes is taking shots at them. They posted the results of AEW Dynamite, and it says CM Punk defeated Jack Perry. You know you messed up big time when you got Forbes cooking your ass like that.
Wow. Oh my god. Wow. CM Punk, they actually did say, it actually does say that CM Punk defeats Jack Perry. Backstage footage from AEW All In 2023. Oh, that's really taking the piss out of them now, man. Oh my god, dude. I am honestly a bit glad that I have not watched AEW at all. The reason being, like, when AEW first showed up, I watched the very first AEW event, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And so I watched it a little bit. But what drew me away, so Nick Khan is better than Tony Khan in terms of who manages their company better? Apparently, I guess, because Tony has made such a fool of himself in recent times that it's literally not even funny at this point. It's just like, dude. It used to be funny, but now it's like, dude, you're shooting yourself more times on the foot than even Vince McMahon himself has done. And you've been in this business doing this promotion for about 3 fucking years. Almost 4. You're shooting yourself in the foot more times than Vince McMahon has during his last 4 years of running WWE. And that's saying something to me. But anyway, when I first watched AEW, I watched the very first show, and I was like, okay, I could probably be interested in this. And to this day, I will still say the match between Cody Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes is still, to this day, one of, if not my absolute favorite matches ever of all time, if I'm being honest. So obviously I was watching AEW for a bit after this, and this show, the only reason I stopped watching AEW was because I kept feeling like they were just showing, like, holy shit, they were showing OMG moment after OMG moment after OMG moment after OMG moment, literally within 5 to 10 minutes of each other. It was so bad. It was so often. My thought is like, are these fucking people really trying to entertain the crowd? Because eventually what they're doing is they're pulling what TNA did with Abyss when that man first came out, where Abyss was always known for doing OMG moment after OMG moment, week after week after week for a time, until it got so old that it was like, dude, you guys gotta stop doing this. Because if you keep doing this, the crowd is eventually gonna get bored. Because you're using OMG moments to tell a story when even in WWE back in the day when AEW was around, even they, as bad as a number of their storylines were, I don't recall a time where I was seeing OMG moment after OMG moment after OMG moment every 5 to 10 minutes. It was like few and far in between on each show, where they would leave more OMG moments for the pay-per-view matches over the TV show, because the whole point of them building up to the pay-per-view event was for them to was because they had to tell a story. If you do OMG moment after OMG moment every single week to the build-up, it gets boring. That's why I stopped watching AEW, because it was starting to bore me because of how often they would keep doing these OMG moments, and it was annoying the hell out of me, and I just couldn't watch it anymore because it was basically feeling stale already for me, and that's saying something. And of course, AEW fanboys can come over here and say, "You're just saying that because you're a WWE fan." I gave AEW a chance. Oh, that just. That thing literally just went to black, and it shows the thumbnail of the video just slowly coming into focus. It's, oh my god, scared the shit out of me. But yeah, if people want to, if AEW fanboys and fangirls want to come over to my channel and be like, "You're just saying that because you're a WWE fan," dude, I gave AEW a chance. I was willing to watch it. So, and I was bored of it pretty easily. Now, that's not to say that AEW was boring in itself, because it does have some pretty good wrestlers there. Some wrestlers that are still there are AEW originals that still work with the company. My personal favorite wrestler from there, if I'm being honest, would be MJF. Maxwell, I can't remember his full name because I haven't watched it in a while. But MJF, he is like, as well, I would not say what CM Punk said. I would definitely say he can be compared to The Miz, because he and The Miz act very similar, but I do like MJF. He's one of my favorite heel wrestlers of the modern times. And another problem and currently, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, thank you. You helped me there. But yeah, another problem that I have with AEW is they are literally doing the exact same thing that WCW did. And they are bringing in wrestlers. I don't watch wrestling, but I saw him on another show I watched and he was funny. Yeah, I could see it. But yeah. With AEW, another problem that I'm having with it nowadays is they're bringing over ex-WWE talent that will release their contract, so they're going over to AEW for whatever kind of deals they're getting from them. And the worst part is, some of the AEW originals are being treated like shit compared to the guys that left WWE and signed with AEW. And it's sad. It really is sad that the people who have been there since day one are being treated like crap because Tony Khan has superstars like Edge, aka Adam Copeland, Christian, Paul White, aka Big Show. I don't know Mark Henry wrestles there, but at this point I would not be surprised if he is. Sting, who just retired not too long ago. But I'm saying him because he was a WWE wrestler before he went to AEW, even if he retired in between those two situations. Ric Flair, William Regal, who has since returned to WWE. And that's naming a few people. Now, Cody Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes, they were ex-WWE guys, but I would call them AEW originals because they were there since day one. So, yeah, to me, they are considered AEW originals. And a number of AEW wrestlers that have left AEW have since come to WWE. CM Punk returned to WWE in November of last year after a near 10-year long thing going on there where he wouldn't return even for anything up until recently. You have CM Punk, you got Jade Cargill, who left AEW and joined WWE and had her debut match at WrestleMania in her second match against Chelsea Green on Raw this past Monday night. And I would not be surprised if we see more wrestlers from AEW join WWE, because at this point, I would agree with this. At this point, AEW's days are numbered. Because at this point, when you make a fool out of yourself, when a business owner is making a fool out of himself, he is making a fool out of the business that he currently owns. So yeah, at this point, I'm starting to believe what what DX did during their Hall of Fame speech. You know that segment where Triple H is like, just where he tells the crowd, don't say Vince McMahon, because he will personally, he will hire all of you, and then he will proceed to fire you. And the crowd started chanting, Vince McMahon, Vince McMahon. And then Billy Gunn, because he was in AEW, he's like, he can't fire me. And Triple H would say to him, he will buy that pissant company just to fire you again. Now, while Vince McMahon can't fire anybody because of the stupid shit that he got himself into nowadays, of course it's alleged at this point, but still, because of what's going on with him, he can't call the shots anymore, but Triple H can if he wants. So Billy Gunn and Dustin Rhodes and all these other ex-WWE guys, if something happens with AEW, they could technically go back to WWE, because it is technically under new management, with Triple H being the storyline writer and TKO being the new owners of WWE nowadays, compared to just Vince McMahon. I'm just saying. But we're moving on here.
It's not just Forbes. Just take a look at some of these other tweets that I've seen. And this one comes from...
Let's see here. Alfred Konua. This is nasty. And there you have it. AEW has officially tricked itself off these streets. CM Punk beat Perry's ass more than he let on. Punk said, I didn't punch anybody. And in a tough guy business, the Young Bucks were like, yes, you did. You kicked Jack Perry's ass, and we have the footage. And they actually did show this shit on AEW Dynamite. They even said they were going to. And from what I've seen, they did. I actually had a video, somebody uploading a video from their camera of them showing the video on the Titantron. Yeah, it's just like, I want to see it now, but I feel like if I don't, this video is going to get taken down, because Tony Khan's fucking dumbass just making a fool of himself, and he's so embarrassed that he's doing that shit. Next time, maybe, Tony, next time, just shut your fucking mouth.
It says, AEW has officially tricked itself off the streets. CM Punk beat Perry's ass more than he let on. Punk said, I didn't punch anybody. And in a tough guy business, the Young Bucks were like, yes, you did. You kicked Jack Perry's ass. And we have the footage. This is a great take. This is a great tweet. And I still don't get why the Young Bucks thought
really funny,
this was a good idea. Or Tony Khan, whoever was behind it. Humble Wrestling says, so what Punk said on Ariel Helwani show actually happened? What did it accomplish? We don't know, Humble. We're still trying to figure that out as well. Patrick the Heel says this.
You don't know what it accomplished? It accomplished absolutely nothing for AEW itself. They wanted to make Punk look bad, but in turn, they gave CM Punk the freest publicity ever. You hear that toilet? That's Tony Khan right now. He is in the toilet right now. Hold on a second. I gotta mute real quick. Yeah, dude. That's the the time when the toilet's out, right? Yep. But yeah, dude. See, here's the other thing about this, and I just realized it. CM Punk has been away from when was CM Punk's last televised? Before this, coming out. If you will look this up for me, that'd be appreciated. When exactly was CM Punk's last ever televised appearance? on AEW as a whole. Like, no matter which show it was. When was his last televised appearance? Hey, you got your Ohio State hat on. OHIO! Yep, yeah, say what anybody can say what they want about the Buckeyes. They are the team that I've been supporting my whole life because my dad is a Buckeye fan. Because he actually did. I don't know if he went. I think he went there, but I'm pretty sure he worked there as well. The Ohio State University. So my dad has a reason to be a fan of the Buckeyes, and because of that, I am a fan of the Buckeyes too. As a matter of fact, I actually remember this one person went to my school because my class was reading this book called Ozark Red. And when my dad looked at the name on the book, he asked me to ask this guy if he remembers my dad, because the two of them, there was something about the two of them that involved being on the OSU campus. Like, there was something about the two of them in regard to the Ohio State University. So that's really nice for me, honestly. I remember asking him about it, but I can't remember what his response was because it was so long ago. It was like middle or high school. And that's like 10, 15 years ago that I got it. That's like 10 to 15 years I gotta look back on. And I honestly don't remember, even if I could try to. I wouldn't be able to remember it. But yeah. But even if Coconut doesn't look for this, that whole thing, now if anybody can look it up, I don't really care who looks it up, as long as somebody wants to look it up for me and answer my question on what was CM Punk's last televised appearance in AEW. My whole point is, ever since his last televised appearance and he came to WWE, what AEW literally just did was give CM Punk the freest publicity they could ever give him. These guys are fucking morons.
Chant on Dynamite for the Young Bucks. Mission accomplished.
Man, where's Walter? Where's Jeff Dunham's Walter when I need him? I want him to call them a bunch of dumbasses. Freaking dumbasses.
Question mark. Oh my god.
Right?
Patrick also said, guys, I don't think I'm a CM Punk fan anymore. What I just saw, man, it was so shameful, embarrassing, and damning. What a maniac, a liar, a P-word, and what a piece of shit. I feared for my life, and I'm sitting on my couch. I can't imagine what Tony and Jack felt. This man is trolling so hard, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, he really is trolling.
Because this is exactly what
Very
I think AEW expected us to say. This is not what we actually thought at all, honestly. If anything, made you look worse. Julian says, so this is the footage. It just looks like Punk described. So, well, my respect level might have went up for Punk after seeing this, honestly. Julian also said, they went out here copyright striking the footage now after seeing the responses. How are you going to try to wipe the footage off this app when you were the ones to release it? This...
Yeah, so fucking backwards, these people.
Is so unserious, man. And that's a great take. That's a great opinion that I completely agree with. Eric Bischoff even joined in and said that it's a fucking gold mine for clicks. But it's
hey, Cam Dog. Oh, I didn't even realize it was Cam Dog saying it. How you doing tonight, Cam Dog? How you doing tonight, man? How you doing? I didn't even notice the name of who sent it. I just noticed somebody said something about my hat. And I just responded to it in kind. I forgot. I didn't even realize it was Cam Dog. I'm sorry. I am so sorry, man. I am so sorry.
Tony Khan.
So how you doing tonight?
See what he means by that, because everybody, including me, is going to make a video on this footage. Somebody asked Dave Meltzer if he's going to find a way to defend Tony Khan and Jack Perry. It's going to be funny to see, but even Dave Meltzer said, I don't think showing it was a good idea. Dave Meltzer...
When you got Dave Meltzer, who is in himself a joke in the internet wrestling community, when you even got him saying this was not a good idea, you fucked up. You know they done fucked up doing that.
one fan does not think this was a good idea.
Damn.
Ray questioned Tony Khan and AEW's decision to air the footage of the backstage fight, and he said this: "Is this what's going to get more people to tune into your product?" Punk admitted to everything he did, so let's just say that this video corroborates everything that Punk said. Where is the win for AEW here? I don't see the end game. It's not like they're airing the footage to prove what Punk said was wrong. Punk admitted he put his hands on Jack Perry. Punk admitted to a verbal altercation, and Punk admitted to people breaking it up. What is this video going to show us? Like I said with some of these other tweets, I don't know what this video is trying to accomplish at all. And then you had Brian Last, who said they thought they would embarrass CM Punk by showing that he smacked Jack Perry in the mouth. What a misfire. But anyways, JD from New York also said this. So basically, everything CM Punk said with Ariel Helwani, everything he spoke on was shown. Nothing was fabricated. This would have made sense in September of last year, not April 2024, 8 months later. All I see is a company desperate. And when JD is saying this, and I've seen that JD's been unhappy with AEW, you kind of know you messed up because this was a big diehard fan of AEW, but now he's even sick of the company. And he also said this, he said, even the most diehard AEW accounts on here, I genuinely don't know how you could defend this episode tonight. This looks like a completely different company from only 1 month ago. And also said this, he said, AEW flagging people now for sharing the video of the footage that they aired on their own show.
Right.
This sentence right here is a big one. It says, this isn't our AEW. And that is a very important line because it really shows you that AEW does not listen to the fans at all. And
not anymore, anyway.
On Instagram with this, saying, mission accomplished. Well, everybody's trolling AEW.
Wow.
This is a terrible decision. Everybody said it was a terrible
Damn,
decision.
even CM Punk got in on that. Even CM Punk got in on that whole ordeal. And he posts a picture of the meme of this George W. Bush meme where he's got his thumb up. And behind him, you got that mission accomplished sign behind him. It's just like, if only he would have just put his pic, like, if he would have been able to Photoshop that President of the United States thing out of there, and was able to put his face over George W. Bush's thing with that mission accomplished sign right there, that would have been so hilarious. So hilarious.
We still did it. They got cooked. And honestly,
that's just stupid on his part. He messed up completely, bro. They completely messed up on that situation. They literally shot them, like I said earlier, they shot themselves in the foot. That's just how it is. I'd say I would just say their days are just about numbered. Because when you got so many people, when you got even a number of AEW fanboys and fangirls saying this is fucked up, you guys really messed up on this. Yeah, that's just bad, dude. They royally messed up here doing that. Should I just pay my respects for AEW now? Because at this point, I don't see them. I just do not see them coming back from this. Because, I just don't see them coming back from this. It's likely not. If it somehow happens, I'll be amazed. But at this point, I just don't see it happening whatsoever. Yeah, it's just sad now. What's going on? At this point, I would say they might as well just remove Tony Khan from the picture of the AEW and just replace him with somebody else who actually knows how to they just know how to give the fans what they want, but in a way that would actually make sense, That's just how it is. That's just how I feel about it. As far as I'm concerned, I'm glad I'm not watching AEW anymore. They're constantly just shooting themselves in the foot, especially with the last number of months with Tony Khan saying his stupid shit. Yeah, it's sad, but also either the way I see it, either AEW is going to go off the rails now, or they're going to do what they should have done a long ass time ago.
So I finally played.
Or did what they should have done a long time ago, and gotten rid of this man from his position. And replaced him with somebody else who actually knows what the fuck they're doing and how to get the people, how to get the crowd to be on their side more than WWE. Because right now, currently, WWE is kicking their asses, whereas years ago, AEW was kicking WWE's ass, and I have no problem admitting that. But still, right now, WWE is just kicking ass at this point. Yeah, it's just sad for them at this point. They might as well just either kick him out of the out of the president position or make him leave, because if he stays on there, it's not going to end well for them at this point. I would watch those videos of crashes going on, but you guys will be asking me over and over, what the heck? Can we see this? What happened? We need to see this. So I'm trying to watch something that doesn't involve you guys having to watch it with me. So that way you guys can listen to it and I can technically still watch it without the possibility of any kind of copyright claim. 20 worst YouTube... Should we watch this one? 20 worst YouTube scandals ever? Because I already see two particular clips that I notice here. One is involving that prank. That prank where they pranked this dude by having him think that his friend was shot and killed, but he really wasn't. And then, of course, you got one of the Paul brothers. Because you also got the Paul brother over here that was in that suicide force in Japan that got him in a lot of deep trouble. Yeah. But I'll probably watch something else for the moment. Wait, have I already seen this video? Oh.
Despite the immense popularity of Super Mario 64 speedrunning, there...
Okay, I'm actually gonna go ahead and plug in my phone real quick. Give me a second. So we're kind of gonna keep on with the, because I was watching a Super Mario 64 cheating speedrunners video just a few moments ago when I was first trying to do this live stream, but my internet was acting all weird. No wait, it was something else. I actually just watched it. What am I talking about? But anyway, yeah, they actually have another one for me on my recommended. Hold on a second. Alright, just give me 1 quick second. Gotta go get in. Sorry about that.
Comparatively small amount of people running.
Yeah, of course that's gonna happen. They can try to use my PlayStation, see if it'll work with this. And it's trying to get me it's trying to get me with a copyright claim by playing music. Yeah, we're gonna get away from that other account, because that's a friend's account. And I'm not one to mess with his account unless he gives me permission to use it. I'm gonna ask him for it first. We're gonna rewatch what I was watching just a few moments ago.
Despite the immense popularity of Super Mario 64
So this is obvious cheater fakes blindfolded Super Mario 64 speedrun. I think I may have watched this video before, but I remember somebody did a video there as well.
Running, there is a comparatively small amount of people running the blindfolded categories, a testament to how difficult blindfolded speedrunning really is. And so it was surprising when I was on Twitch this week and was notified of another runner doing blindfolded 16-star runs.
Oh yeah, I actually have seen this video like 5 separate times before this.
Runs of Super Mario 64 have recently been made popular by a small but extremely dedicated group of runners However, there are clear differences between the runs that those already established players have done and the runs that this particular person is completing. The main difference, of course, being that this particular runner is creating fake runs and attempting to pass them off as real. I have here a
Just like every other cheating speedrunner.
Video of one of these runs, and I aim to show some of the clear discrepancies between this run and the genuine blindfolded runs of SM64 that are out there. When watching this run, it's important to note that the author claims not to have practiced blindfolded speedrunning much at all, and that this is apparently only his third blindfolded run. He claims to make up for this with the fact that he's been playing Super Mario 64 for the past 3.5 years. However, it should be noted that despite the amount of time he has spent on the game, the best time on a run he has currently submitted is an 1826, a relatively mid-level time for 16-star.
Okay, so the one thing I know about blindfolded speedruns is how, with blindfolded runs, unlike regular speedruns, you have to know everything about the game, like top to bottom. You gotta be real careful with how you go about playing the game. Because you can't really see the game, you have to resort to not just muscle memory, but also hearing. Because if you're not careful, if you're not very careful with that situation, with a blindfolded run, you could very well potentially be putting yourself in a position where you just gotta restart the game. Because you're in a very bad position with what's going on. And like I said, I've seen this video like 5 separate times before, so I might know what I'm talking about, but not entirely.
The first thing that actually put me off when I was watching this run was the fact that the streamer had both follow alerts and text-to-speech alerts on.
Yeah, that's one thing he's gonna say here. He's gonna say something about this, but yeah. Yeah, when you're doing a blindfolded run, don't have sound on.
Thank you for the follow. If you've ever seen a blindfolded speedrun before, you will know that runners pretty much always have these kind of sound alerts turned off.
They even said with the one that they used for an example, it says, blindfolded 70-star run, da 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 da. I'll chat after the run, thanks for watching. Alerts are silent, but alerts are silent, but bit alarms are off due to a Streamlabs bug. Okay.
Considering how important sound cues are when you literally can't see, you would think that he would do the same. However, this guy is so good, he apparently doesn't even need clear sound cues to do the run. Throughout this run, he also attempts multiple times to explain the strategies that he's been using, except there are multiple problems with what he's saying versus the things he's actually doing. He mainly claims to be using a combination of sound cues and muscle memory for most of his strats. Most speedrunners know, however, that visual cues in particular are just as important as muscle memory in many cases. It's very unrealistic to assume that anyone could just casually do a blindfolded run off of visual muscle memory alone, no matter how long that person has been playing.
I've tried to do stars. I can't do 1-star blindfolded. Like, even though I've played this game for years and years and years, even trying to do 1-star blindfolded is insanely difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Blindfolded speedruns often employ what are called normalized strategies. A normalized strategy is any strat that is done in such a way that the outcome is always exactly the same. In Super Mario 64, many of these kinds of strategies can be employed. For example, moving in a cardinal direction on a controller with notches, using 2 slow walks to ledge grab at the corner of a platform, or punching against a wall to push Mario backwards a fixed distance are all normalized strats. As you can imagine, these kinds of strats are often completely different from the ones you would see in a normal run, and require hundreds of hours to properly learn. And yet this person is claiming to have a 33-minute time after openly admitting to having little to no preparation. Keep that in mind when you look at the so-called blindfolded strats that are claimed to be employed here. The run begins in Bob-omb Battlefield with Behind the Chain Chomp's Gate. Looking at a legitimate example by Bubsia, you can see that a consistent setup with clear intention is being used in order to get onto the Chain Chomp's pole.
So, what he's doing here is he's got... honestly, you know what? I think we can find another video to watch. Because this would involve trying to show you guys what's going on there. Oh. Okay, if we're doing this video, we gotta set the mood here. We gotta set the mood here. By turning out the lights. Because 5 true broken down car horror stories. Every time I watch a scary video, we gotta turn the lights off. Alright. Whoa, what kind of movie are we watching? Oh, okay. Yeah. Whenever we're watching something horror related, we always gotta turn the lights off. It don't matter what kind of horror it is. Even if it's a horror comedy, it don't matter. We're turning the lights off because it adds the atmosphere. It just adds the atmosphere involved in everything. Yeah. In case you're wondering why I didn't turn the lights off when I was doing a stream earlier today, as terrifying as it is talking about about a person that has made a return after doing some fucked up shit last year, I couldn't turn any lights off because it was daytime. As scary as that shit is. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. I'm still waiting for. I don't know if that video's up, if that VOD is up now, because it keeps telling me it isn't. But my history is saying even when I go on your videos on my YouTube, it says it is. But yeah. But anyway, enough about that. If you guys want to know about it, that video will be up whenever it gets up. Yeah, we're moving on. I'm gonna give somebody a nightmare.
This happened a couple of years ago. One night, I was driving to go pick up my girlfriend from her job. She had a car, but it was in the shop getting repairs. She worked in a couple of years.
Well, let me.
This happened a couple of years ago. One night, I was driving to go pick up my girlfriend from her job. She had a car, but it was in the shop getting repairs. She worked late that night until about 11 o'clock p.m. I drove the 20-minute drive to get there, and then she got into my car. We started driving back, and the roads were really quiet with it being so late. As we were on the way back, almost halfway there, my car ironically broke down. It was a somewhat old car and wasn't running that great, but I didn't expect it to break down on the side of the road like it did.
Okay, define somewhat old. Okay, I just want to know, define somewhat old in this context. How old was that car really? How many years old was it? Because saying it's somewhat old could mean anything.
With it being so late at night, neither of us knew anybody that could give us a ride. I tried restarting the car several times, but I was unsuccessful. So we were sitting there on the side of a pretty quiet road. Within the first 5 minutes of sitting there, maybe just 2 or 3 cars drove by. We finally decided to call roadside assistance, thinking they should be able to help out. After calling, we were told that they could come, but it might be a 45-minute wait.
Yep.
That was disappointing, but at least they would be there eventually. The place where my car was broken down was a quiet road that had mostly wild land on both sides. It was very dark and hard to see much of anything. My girlfriend and I were just chatting and going on our phones while we waited. Not long into this wait, we saw headlights of a car coming down the road behind us. We didn't think much of it, but as it approached, we noticed that it was going pretty slow. The car passed us by, and I noticed that it was an old white work van from some time in probably the 1980s. It was pretty old and creepy looking. The way it was driving was so slow, and that was a little strange too. I made a joke about it to my girlfriend, but I was actually wondering why it was going so slow. Then it drove past us and disappeared around the corner. Probably 5 or so minutes went by without a single car passing. Then we saw headlights again. As this next vehicle approached, we noticed that it was the same white van. Once again, it passed us by going pretty slow. I know that I made a comment about it being the same one. This seemed a little bit strange, but it drove out of sight like the first time, so I wasn't too nervous. Well, just a couple of minutes after that, the truck drove by yet again. We saw the headlights coming up from behind, and we even guessed that it was the same truck. Sure enough, it was. This time, though, it was going even slower than the other times. I said a joke that this was AAA arriving, but I was actually pretty nervous. The truck passed us by, but then it started to pull over to the side of the road right in front of us. It parked about 40 feet or so in front of my vehicle. We didn't know who this was or what they were doing. I wanted to leave there so badly. I tried starting my car engine again, but nothing happened. The truck just sat there for several minutes, but nobody got out. The suspense was killing me. Then we saw the front driver's door open. A man got out, but he walked around the front of his truck and then to the passenger side. I didn't get a good look at him at all. After he got to the passenger side, we couldn't really see him, and he was mostly out of our view. It was almost like he was hiding behind the truck. He stayed there for a couple minutes as well. Then he started to move out and walk into our direction. My heart was racing like crazy. I felt like I needed to do something, but I didn't know what. I remember after the man had started walking, I noticed headlights of another car starting to come up behind us. Without even giving it any thought, I opened my driver's door and got out. As the car was approaching on the road, I stood in the middle of the lane and waved. I was trying to get this car to stop. When I did this, the car started to slow down. I also heard a noise from behind me and then looked over. I saw the guy getting back inside of his truck. Then he very quickly drove away out of there. When the car stopped in the road, I got out of the way and let them drive past. They probably thought that I was crazy, but it got the creepy van to drive off. I went back into my car with my girlfriend after that. We were worried that the van would come back yet again. I honestly thought that it would, but it didn't. Not very many cars came by for the rest of the time that we waited. Eventually, my roadside assistants showed up, and they were able to tow my car. I still often wonder, though, what that guy in the van was planning to do.
That's a good question. That's not to get on it too much, but that is a good question, makes you wonder.
When I was younger and in college, I used to work at this shoe store. The store was part of a strip mall that was in a very large shopping area. I worked there during the summers when I was back home at my parents' house from school. So one night, I worked later until close. I think that we closed at 10 p.m., and the store was not that big. I had worked there for a while, so I was trusted to close the store by myself. So at 10 o'clock, I finished up the things that I had to do, and then I left. When I walked outside into the parking lot, it was basically empty. When I had gotten there, things had been so busy that I had to park a long distance away in a larger parking lot. Our parking lot was shared with the other businesses in our little strip mall. There were larger stores with huge parking lots, and the parking lots were connected, so I guess it really wasn't that far away. Anyways, I walked out to my car and got inside. But when I tried starting the engine, it wouldn't start. It made a weird noise and just didn't turn over. I didn't really know anything about cars, and I wasn't sure what to do. So I called my dad and told him that it wasn't starting. He told me that he would come down and see what was going on, and he would be there in about 30 minutes. So then I just had to sit there and wait. As I was in the parking lot, I looked around. Things were extremely quiet. There were no cars nearby at all, just a few parked extremely far away on the complete other side. I just went on my phone, scrolling through social media and things like that. I remember looking up at one point and noticing a man walking through the parking lot. He was wearing a hood and looking down. He kind of walked through the parking lot near me, and then it looked like he was heading directly towards my car for a second. Then he sort of turned again and walked in another direction. He went back in the direction that he had come from, and after walking around the parking lot for several more minutes, he soon went out of sight behind a building that I worked in. The guy seemed a little bit sketchy to me. I didn't really know what he was doing. It seemed like he was kind of wandering around, like he didn't have a specific destination that he was trying to get to, and the way he was kind of eyeing my car made me nervous. For the next few minutes, everything was fine, but I really had to use the restroom. I didn't want to wait, and I knew that there was a gas station not that far away, so I decided to walk there. I was a little bit nervous to get out with that guy walking around, but he had been out of sight for several minutes now, so I decided to go. It would take me probably almost 10 minutes to get to the gas station. I got out of my car and walked. On the entire walk, I didn't see the man or anybody else. I got to the gas station, used the restroom, and was back out in less than a minute. Then I walked towards my car. When I got to the building that I worked in and was passing it, I saw my car in the parking lot still. But then I saw the same man. He was standing right next to my car and kind of messing around with it. I saw him try opening a door, and then he kind of hit at a window. As I was just standing there a good distance away, the man seemed to notice me. He stopped and then started walking in my direction. I moved back and went behind the building, but the guy was still coming after me. Soon he reached the building, and I walked all around the back side of it. He kept following me, and then I made a lap around the entire building. When I made it around to the front again, I saw my dad in his pickup truck arriving in the parking lot. As he was driving up to my car, I started to run over there. When I did though, the man started to run after me from behind. I was going at full speed for my dad's truck, but the man was gaining on me. I remember that when I was getting closer, my dad yelled something out his window. He was probably asking what was going on, but I don't remember what he said. The guy was so close to me that I decided not to try to get into the passenger side of my dad's truck. Instead, I ran for the bed of the pickup truck. I just jumped up and pulled myself inside. Just as I did, my dad knew what to do and he hit the gas and started speeding away. The guy reached the truck and tried to grab it, but we were going too fast for him to jump in it. He ran with it trying to chase us for a few moments, but we were able to leave the parking lot and get away from him. I rode in the back of my dad's truck until we made it a good distance away. Then he stopped and I got into the passenger seat. After that, my dad called the cops and told them that some guy was chasing me in the parking lot. We returned to the scene to find that the man was gone, but there were a few noticeable dents all over my car. He must have kicked at it a bunch or hit it with something. I was so mad about it, but the car was old and not very nice, to be honest. I ended up getting a new one not long after that. I'm a female, and this happened when I was 19. At the job I had during that time, I used to work some really late nights. I no longer work there, but I do miss it sometimes because I think it was kind of fun. But I also did have one scary experience. It happened one Thursday night after a particularly late shift. I think that I got off at about midnight, and so I was driving back really late. The drive back home usually took about 15 minutes, and I lived with my parents at this time. Several minutes into the drive, I was sort of on a quiet road, and my car just started smoking. I didn't know what was going on. I pulled the car over to the side of the road and turned it off. Basically, right when my car stopped, I noticed a truck pulling over behind me. The road was mostly quiet, but this pickup truck, I guess, had been driving behind me. Maybe he saw the smoke and wanted to see if I was okay. So I was in my car with it stopped, and I immediately saw the driver's door to the truck behind me open, and then I saw a man get out and walk towards me. He was a bigger guy, who looked to be slightly older than I was. I opened up my door, got out, and said hi to him. He was very friendly right away, and said that he noticed my car smoking and asked me what happened. I said that I didn't know, and I wasn't much of a car person. I remember him saying that I couldn't drive it like that, and asked me where I was going. Then he offered to give me a ride to my parents' house. I accepted his offer. I know, that was stupid. I didn't know the guy at all, but he just seemed friendly to me, and I didn't think anything bad could happen. I was young and I made a bad choice. So anyways, I got into his truck on the passenger side, and he got into the driver's seat. It was a pretty big truck. Right away, when I got in, he started talking to me and remained friendly. He asked me where I was coming from, and then asked me about my job and stuff. As he was driving, I was basically just answering his questions and talking to him. Before I knew it, we were probably 10 minutes into the drive. I had told him my address where I live, and right away he said, "Oh, I know exactly where that is." But I remember that I noticed he didn't turn where he was supposed to. When I pointed that out, he said, "Oh, I just gotta stop somewhere quick. You don't mind, right?" I was just like, "Oh, okay." I should have said, "What do you mean you have to stop somewhere? It's after midnight and we were driving in the middle of nowhere. What could you possibly have to do?" That's where I got suspicious. In a kind of break in the conversation, I started to take out my phone. I knew my parents were probably asleep, but I wanted to try to call them and let them know what happened. I didn't work the next day, so we'd be able to go down and get the car. But right when I took my phone out, the man driving said, "What are you doing there?" I started to say that I was going to text my mom, but he interrupted me. He asked me what kind of phone I had, and I said iPhone. He then said some nonsense like he was planning to buy one and asked me to show him the size. When I held it up to him, he instantly snatched it out of my hand. Then he opened up his window and tossed it out. I was shocked. I asked him what he was doing, but he didn't answer me. That's when everything changed, and I knew I was really in trouble. We drove in silence for the next few minutes. I was too scared to really say anything. I had no idea where we were even driving to anymore. We were just going down random country roads is what it looked like. After I'm not even sure how long, he finally drove down this really quiet road and then came to a stop on it. We were at the end of this really long driveway that looked like it was going into the woods. After stopping the truck, he told me to get out as he got out on his side. I got out of the truck and he was quickly around to my side. When he reached me, he grabbed my arm and started to lead me up the driveway. He was much bigger than I was, so I didn't think I would be able to fight him or anything. When we started to walk though, I turned and just kicked him in the groin as hard as I could. He let go of me and dropped to the ground. Then I took off running. I don't think that he was able to get up and chase after me right away. I had no clue as to where I was, but when I crossed the street, I ran into the woods. I knew that I had to take advantage of this, and I didn't stop running. When I made it through this woods, I found myself on another random quiet road. I started running alongside the road, but soon I actually saw headlights up ahead. There was a car driving. I went out into the middle of the road and started waving my arms like crazy. I didn't care who was driving the car. The odds are they weren't as crazy as the guy that I had just escaped from. But as the car approached, I then saw blue and red lights start to flash on it. This was a police car. I felt 10 times better instantly. They stopped, and I told the officer what happened. He called for backup, and when we went back to the guy in the truck's driveway, he was gone. The police drove me back home and asked me several more questions. Long story short, they later did find the guy who had picked me up. That was by far the scariest experience of my life. One morning, a couple of years ago, I was going to leave for work. I worked at a pretty typical office job, and I live in a house just outside of the city. I went out to my car that was in my detached garage. When I got inside and tried starting the engine though, it wouldn't start. This was strange because my car had been running fine up until this point. It wasn't even that old. It even ran well the day before. I didn't have time to look and see what was wrong though. I had to be at work, so I took out my phone and I called a Lyft. Luckily, I lived close enough to the city that I could pretty easily find one, and they got me to work on time. So after getting to work, the day went pretty normal. I had to take another Lyft back from the office to my home. And then when I got back, I decided to see my car. I was going to check and see what was wrong and then bring it to a shop. When I got out into my garage, I popped the hood and then took a look. The engine was all messed up. Now, I'm not a mechanic, but I could tell that the engine had been tampered with. I didn't know who would do this though, or why, or even how. I was really frustrated. So I was standing there in my garage, trying to think of how this could happen. I was looking around, and when I did, I noticed something to my right. Down underneath some shelves in my garage, I saw a man hiding and looking at me.
How did I know if I was going to fall asleep? Because you're used to me falling asleep, that's why. Also, it's dark in here, so usually when it's dark, you usually fall asleep in the dark. Unless you're afraid of the dark, in which case you probably sleep with the lights on or something. At this point, Coconut, you're used to it. Shush.
When I noticed him, he instantly started moving, realizing that I had located him. My only reaction was to move away. Then, he got up and I noticed that he was holding a hammer in his hands. That's when I knew that I needed to run. I left the garage and ran around to my house. I got inside and locked the door behind me. The man reached the door probably 10 seconds later. He tried entering, and when he realized that the door was locked, he started banging on the window with the hammer. I got out my phone and hit 911. Then I ran to the backside of my house. It didn't take long before I heard glass breaking. This man had to be insane. I heard a bunch of noise by the front door as I was talking to the police at the far backside of my house. Soon I could tell that the man had made it inside. At that point, I quickly left my house out the back door. Then I ran out of my backyard into my neighbor's and then made my way to the street. I just wanted to get away from that guy. I no longer saw him or heard him. I told the police to hurry up, and then I walked around the street looking out for the man. I walked along the street for probably close to 10 minutes. I didn't see the man though. Then I noticed the police were arriving. I went back over and met them, and they entered my house through the now open front door. I remained outside with other officers for several minutes. Soon, they emerged with the man that had broken in, and he was arrested. I think he must have been on drugs or something. The guy seemed totally crazy. When I went back inside my house, I saw that he had smashed up a bunch of stuff. He must have taken the hammer to everything. I'm just glad that he didn't take it to me. I luckily had insurance and didn't have to pay a whole lot for the repairs. But unfortunately, it still took a while to get everything fixed that the man had broke. I don't know how or why, but somehow he got into my garage. He messed up my car and then must have been hiding in there all day, including when I tried to start my car in the morning. Then when I noticed him, he tried to attack me. I'm really glad that the man was caught.
The fact that we're not even done with this video, I just fell asleep in between stories. Okay.
This story happened back when I was 16 years old. I had recently got my first job, which was working at a restaurant. I remember that during this time, my parents let me use their old car that was barely running. It broke down on me once, but we were able to get it running again. For a few weeks, the car was actually pretty reliable. I drove it to and from school and work as well. One night, I worked sort of late. After getting off, I started driving home. It usually took about 15 minutes, and we lived a little ways away in a more rural area. So as I was driving, the roads were quiet, and there was mostly just woods on both sides. The car just started losing power out of nowhere and basically dying. I didn't know what to do, and eventually it slowed down and it wouldn't go anymore. I got off to the side of the road and tried to start the car, but nothing happened at all. It was the same thing as before when it had broken down. I really wasn't sure how to get it moving again. I took out my phone to call my parents, but when I did, I realized that my phone was dead, and I couldn't charge it because my car had no power. I really didn't know what to do. I wasn't near any businesses or anything. There were a few private properties around, but I didn't know if it would be a good idea to go to someone's house at this hour. I hoped that maybe my parents would realize that I hadn't returned after a while and go out looking for me. They knew that the car had a tendency to break down and that this was a possibility. But in the meantime, I didn't know what to do. I just sat there and looked around. Nobody was driving by or anything like that. Before long, it started to feel kind of spooky out there. There was a dense woods to both my left and right. I heard crickets in the background and sometimes an owl or trees blowing in the wind. But other than that, things were very quiet. I really did not want to get out of my car. I remember that probably 10 minutes into sitting there, I was casually looking around. When I did, I looked to my right in the woods, and I saw a man standing half behind a tree. It was a guy with a beard, and that's all that I noticed. He was just standing there, sort of behind some trees, and watching me. I was so creeped out when I saw it, and my heart started racing like crazy. I felt helpless. What could I do? And why on earth was there a man in the woods over there? He just kept standing there, watching me. After more than a minute of this, suddenly the man disappeared back into the woods. I was still really scared. I felt maybe slightly better that he was gone, but not a whole lot. Probably 10 minutes at least went by with me just sitting there. I was constantly looking around, wondering if the man would return. Just when I was starting to feel slightly better, I looked to my right and saw the guy again. He emerged from the woods, and this time I saw him slowly walking towards me. I watched him go all the way to the edge of the ditch on the side of the road. Now he was less than 10 feet away from me. The bearded man then walked to my passenger side door and tried opening it. Then he calmly walked around to my driver's door and tried opening that. I was so scared that I just ducked and covered. I buried my face in my hands and tried not to look. I heard him poking around my car for a little while. He tried just about every single door, and then he knocked on one of the windows. Then he came to my driver's window and started banging on it. The entire time, he didn't say a word. I looked and saw his creepy face looking right at me. It was probably the most scared I've ever been. I truly didn't know what was going to happen. At least my car was locked, but I couldn't drive it, and he might be able to break in. After banging on my driver's window for a while, the man stopped and then started going to the other side of my car again. When he made it around, that's when I saw headlights in the distance behind me. This made me feel slightly better. As they approached, though, I heard the sound of a car honking over and over again. At first, I was confused. Why was this car driving towards me honking? But as it got closer, I recognized it to be my parents. The man then ran off, away from my car and back into the woods. My parents' SUV pulled over to the side of the road behind my car, and I got out and ran over to them. I got inside, and they asked me what was going on. I told them how my car broke down, my phone was dead, and this guy just came out of the woods. We were all safely inside my parents' car now, and they called the police and reported the guy. He did not come back out of the woods, and we stayed there until the police arrived. When they got there, we spoke with the officers, and also arranged for a tow truck to come and get my car. Meanwhile, they searched the woods, but were unable to locate the man. It really creeps me out knowing that he got away. I mean, I don't know where he came from, or what he was even doing. It still creeps me out to think back to it. I'm just glad that I'm okay.
What time is it? It's about 2 o'clock. Alright. Well, since I just fell asleep, we'll go ahead and just stop it there. I'll probably do this tomorrow night, hopefully when I'm not asleep. We'll try this tomorrow. We'll try this again tomorrow night, but I'll keep this stream up just because why not. In any case, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream there. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed me falling asleep again on stream, as well as me watching those videos that I watched earlier, alongside that video we just watched. But in any case, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Whatever day you're watching this on, hope you have a good rest of your day. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is Forrest Woeful, signing off.